You replied to that text 5 minutes ago. It's been read. No response yet. And now you're doing it again. Replaying the exact wording. Wondering if that one sentence sounded too cold. Or too eager. Or too something. You didn't do anything wrong. You know that. But your brain doesn't seem to care what you know. It just keeps running the same loop, over and over, like a song stuck on repeat that nobody asked for. If this sounds familiar, I want you to know something right now, before we go any further. You are not broken. You are not too sensitive. And you are definitely not alone. In fact, the very thing that's exhausting you right now, the overthinking, the replaying, the endless mental rehearsals, might actually be a side effect of something most people would consider a strength. Because here's the strange truth psychologists have been circling for years. The smarter and more self-aware a person is, the more likely they are to overthink almost everything. Not despite their intelligence. Because of it. Today, we're going to break down exactly why that happens. Not with vague motivational fluff, but with real psychology, the kind that actually explains what's happening inside your head at 2 in the morning when you can't stop thinking about a conversation from 3 years ago. And by the end of this video, you'll understand something that might completely change how you see your own mind. You'll understand why the same brain that helps you solve problems at work is the one that can't let a single sentence go. Why the same instincts that make you a good friend, a careful planner, a reliable teammate, also seem to work against you the moment you're alone with your own thoughts. None of that is a coincidence, and none of it means something is wrong with you. It means your mind is running a very old, very powerful program, and once you see exactly how that program works, you can finally start to change it. Let's get into it. What overthinking actually is. Before we go further, let's clear something up. Overthinking is not the same as thinking deeply. Deep thinking has a destination. It moves toward a decision, an answer, a conclusion. It's productive, even when it's slow. Overthinking has no destination. It's a loop. You go in circles, analyzing the same 3 options 15 different ways, without ever landing anywhere. It feels like progress because your brain is working so hard. But it isn't. You're just spinning the wheels of a car that's stuck in mud. Researchers call this rumination when it's about the past, and worry when it's about the future. Both are forms of repetitive negative thinking. And both are draining, because your brain treats them as if they're solving a real problem. Even when there's nothing left to solve. So why does this happen more to people who are otherwise sharp, capable, self-aware? There are 5 real psychological reasons. Let's go through each one. But before we do, let's make sure this is actually you. Here are a few signs that what you're dealing with is genuine overthinking, not just normal reflection. You replay conversations from days, sometimes years ago, cringing at small details nobody else even remembers. You draft and redraft simple messages until a 2-line text takes 15 minutes. You imagine worst-case outcomes for situations that are statistically unlikely to ever happen. You find it hard to make small decisions, what to eat, what to wear, which show to watch, because your brain treats them with the same intensity as major life choices. And when you finally do relax, some part of you feels like you're forgetting to worry about something important. If 2 or more of these sound like you, keep watching, because what comes next will make a lot more sense of your own mind than any generic advice ever has. Reason 1, your brain is a threat detection machine, and it's very good at its job. Somewhere inside your skull, there's a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. Its entire job, since the earliest days of human evolution, has been one thing: keep you alive by spotting danger before it happens. Thousands of years ago, that danger was a predator in the grass or a stranger from a rival tribe. Today, the danger is a slightly awkward comment you made in a meeting, or a message that got left unread. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference. It can't tell the difference between a lion and an unanswered text. All it knows is, something feels uncertain, and uncertainty has historically meant risk. Here's the part that matters for you specifically. People with higher self-awareness and stronger analytical minds tend to have amygdalas that are, in a sense, overtrained. Years of noticing small social cues,
picking up on subtext, reading between the lines, all of that sharpens your threat detection system.
It makes you good at spotting risk.
But it also means your brain fires that alarm bell more often than it needs to.
So when you replay a conversation for the 10th time, you're not being irrational.
Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's just doing it in a world that no longer matches the threats it was built for.
The problem isn't that your alarm system is broken. The problem is that it's too well calibrated for a world that doesn't exist anymore.
Picture someone getting a short, one-line reply from their boss after sending a detailed project update.
No emoji, no explanation, just noted. For most people, that would register and be forgotten within seconds. But for someone with an overtrained amygdala, that single word can trigger an entire evening of analysis. Did I do something wrong? Are they upset with me? Should I have written more? Should I have written less? None of that reflects reality. It reflects a threat detection system working overtime on a signal that was never actually a threat.
And here's the part that makes it so hard to catch in the moment, because the alarm feels real, the thoughts that follow feel justified.
Your body produces the same physical sensations it would during real danger: a tight chest, a racing mind, restlessness.
So of course the thinking that follows feels urgent and necessary.
It's not. It's your nervous system responding to a ghost. Reason 2, you've learned that being wrong feels dangerous. Think back to a moment when you got something wrong in front of other people. Maybe it was a mistake at work. Maybe it was a wrong answer in a room full of people who seemed to know more than you. What did that feel like? For a lot of people who overthink, that feeling wasn't just embarrassment.
It was something closer to a small internal alarm, a flush of heat, a drop in the stomach, a desperate wish to disappear. Psychologists call this a fear of negative evaluation. And it tends to be stronger in people who care deeply about competence. People who take pride in getting things right, who see their intelligence or capability as part of their identity.
Here's the trap.
If being wrong once felt that painful, your brain starts building a defense system against it happening again.
And the defense it builds is more thinking. More checking.
More, let me just go over this one more time before I send it.
It feels like carefulness. It feels responsible.
But underneath it, there's often a quieter belief driving the whole thing.
If I think about this enough, I can guarantee I won't be wrong. I can guarantee I won't be embarrassed. I can guarantee I'll be safe. Except that belief isn't true. No amount of overthinking can guarantee a perfect outcome. All it guarantees is exhaustion. And here's the cruel irony.
The people most afraid of being seen as incompetent are often the ones most capable of handling a mistake gracefully.
They just haven't given themselves the chance to find that out yet. This fear often traces back further than people realize.
Maybe it was a teacher who corrected you sharply in front of a class. Maybe it was a household where mistakes were met with disappointment instead of patience. Maybe it was a workplace where one bad quarter defined how people saw you for years afterward.
Whatever the origin, the lesson your brain absorbed was the same: mistakes are not safe here. And once a brain learns that lesson, it doesn't easily unlearn it just because the environment changes.
It keeps applying the old rule to a new, often much safer, situation.
Reason 3, you see too many possibilities at once. This one is less talked about, but it might be the most important.
Overthinkers are often people with strong pattern recognition skills. Your brain is wired to notice connections, cause and effect, subtle implications, if this, then that.
That's an incredible advantage in problem solving.
It's part of what makes you good at your job, good in conversations, good at reading people.
But that same skill has a hidden cost.
When you're making a decision, your brain doesn't just see one path forward.
It sees 5, 10, 15.
Each with its own possible outcome, its own risk, its own but what if.
A person who doesn't naturally think this way might choose a restaurant in 10 seconds.
You, on the other hand, might mentally simulate the entire evening. What if it's too loud? What if the other person doesn't like the food? What if we run out of things to talk about? What if?
This is sometimes called analysis paralysis, and it's a documented phenomenon in decision-making psychology.
The more options and variables your brain generates, the harder it becomes to commit to just one. Not because you're indecisive by nature, but because your mind is doing more calculations than most people's minds even attempt. The tragic part is that this ability, seeing many angles, is genuinely valuable. In the right context, it makes you an excellent planner, a thoughtful friend, a careful decision maker.
The issue isn't the ability itself.
It's that it runs constantly, even in low-stakes situations where it isn't needed. Your brain doesn't have a setting for this decision matters versus this decision really doesn't. It applies full analytical power to everything, from choosing a career move to choosing what to text back. Think about the last time you stood in front of a menu for 10 minutes, even though every option on it was perfectly fine. That wasn't indecisiveness in the way people usually mean it. That was a highly capable pattern recognition engine treating a dinner order with the same seriousness it would give a business proposal.
The engine itself isn't the problem. It's brilliant, actually.
It just needs a dial, a way to turn its intensity up for the choices that matter and down for the ones that don't.
Right now, for most overthinkers, that dial is stuck on high, all the time. Reason 4, thinking has become a substitute for feeling safe. This is the part almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most important reason of all. For a lot of overthinkers, thinking isn't really about solving a problem. It's about managing an emotion. Here's what that looks like in practice.
Something uncomfortable happens, a mistake, a rejection, an awkward moment. Instead of sitting with the discomfort of it, your brain immediately jumps into analysis mode.
Why did that happen? What does it mean? What should I have done differently? What will happen next? On the surface, this looks productive. It looks like problem solving. But underneath, something else is happening. As long as you're thinking about the problem, you don't have to actually feel the emotion underneath it, the disappointment, the embarrassment, the fear, the sadness. Thinking becomes a way of avoiding feeling. Psychologists sometimes describe this as cognitive avoidance. Your mind stays busy analyzing so it doesn't have to sit still with something uncomfortable. And because analyzing feels productive, because it feels like you're doing something, it doesn't register as avoidance. It registers as responsibility. But here's the catch. Emotions that aren't actually processed don't just disappear because you thought about them instead of feeling them. They stay there, quietly, waiting. Which is part of why the same worries tend to resurface again and again, even after you've thought them through 100 times. You never actually resolved the feeling. You just kept circling the thought. This is often why overthinking feels endless. You can't think your way out of an emotion. You can only feel your way through it. And that's a very different skill, one that most overthinkers were never taught. There's a simple way to test whether this applies to you. Next time you're stuck in a thought loop, ask yourself honestly, am I actually looking for a solution right now, or am I just trying to make this uncomfortable feeling go away? Most of the time, if you're honest, the answer is the second one. There's no new information being gathered. No decision being made.
Just the same discomfort, wearing the disguise of productive thought.
Reason 5, silence feels unsafe.
There's one more piece to this puzzle, and it's subtle. For a lot of people who overthink, a quiet, empty mind doesn't feel peaceful.
It feels unfamiliar. Almost uncomfortable. If you grew up in an environment where you had to stay alert, where you needed to read the room, anticipate a parent's mood, manage other people's emotions, or stay one step ahead to avoid conflict, your brain may have learned early on that constant vigilance equals safety. In that kind of environment, thinking ahead wasn't overthinking. It was survival. It kept you prepared. It kept you safe. The problem is that wiring doesn't automatically turn off once the environment changes. Even years later, even in a completely safe situation, your brain may still default to that same vigilant mode of scanning, predicting, preparing for something that isn't actually coming. So when your mind finally has a quiet moment, it often fills that silence with something to analyze. Not because there's an actual problem to solve, but because stillness itself feels unfamiliar, even slightly threatening. This is one of the hardest patterns to unlearn, because it isn't really about the thoughts themselves. It's about what silence has come to represent for you. Some people describe this feeling as waiting for the other shoe to drop. Even when everything is fine, a part of them stays braced for something to go wrong, because in the past, calm moments were often followed by chaos. Their mind learned to treat peace as suspicious rather than safe. If that resonates with you, understand this: your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's running an old survival program in an environment that no longer needs it. And old programs can be updated, slowly, with enough consistent evidence that things really are okay now. The real cost of all this thinking. Let's pause here and be honest about what this actually costs you. Chronic overthinking has been linked, in study after study, to higher rates of anxiety, disrupted sleep, decision fatigue, and even physical symptoms like tension headaches and stomach issues. Your brain treats mental rumination almost like an ongoing low-grade stressor. The same systems that would respond to a real, present danger get activated by a thought loop about something that already happened, or something that hasn't happened yet and might never happen at all. It also quietly steals your presence. You can be sitting across from someone you love, having a wonderful moment, and half of your mind is somewhere else entirely replaying, predicting, rehearsing. The moment passes, and you were never fully in it. And maybe the cruelest cost of all. Overthinking often stops you from doing the very things that would prove your fears wrong. You don't send the message. You don't take the opportunity. You don't say the thing you meant to say. Not because you decided against it, but because you got stuck analyzing it until the window closed on its own. There's also a quieter cost that rarely gets talked about: the toll it takes on the people around you. Friends and partners of overthinkers sometimes learn to tread carefully, unsure which offhand comment might trigger hours of silent replaying. Not because they're walking on eggshells out of fear, but because they've seen how much a small moment can spiral. Over time, this can create a strange kind of distance, not from lack of love, but from the exhausting unpredictability of watching someone disappear into their own head mid-conversation. If any of this feels a little too familiar, take a breath. This is not a life sentence. Everything we've talked about so far is learned wiring. And anything learned can be gently, patiently, rewired. If this made you see your own mind a little differently, that's exactly why this channel exists. Subscribe, because we're going to keep unpacking the psychology behind the patterns that quietly shape your everyday life, one honest, no fluff video at a time. I'll see you in the next one.